Hi, welcome to Sacred Enzyme. I'm Stacy. I hope you're doing well today. So I want to go over one period in time when we were discussing in the last video when we had the South Celestial Pole was Alpha Crucis, which is Acrux, and this is called the Southern Cross, and this is Christ consciousness in this constellation. This is where we have the Christ consciousness coming on the planet. So there are quite a few different times that Acrux was in the South Pole system. And one of the very prominent times was the Great Flood. The Great Flood. So 4,000 to 6,000 years ago, Alpha Crucis, Acrux, was on the South Celestial Pole. Okay? Well, guess what was on the North Pole? Guess what was on the North Pole? Thubian, Alpha Draconis. You can't make this stuff up, folks. So if you think that Draco is not real, you're wrong. They came on the North Pole, and this is why we had the Great Flood. They flipped the poles on the Earth by bringing low dimensional frequency to the North Pole. And then the South Pole was secured by the Christ consciousness that was here. So these beings were actually, trying to help Noah or the people on the planet. And then they came afterwards, after the flood, and they helped reseed humanity. Okay, you can't make this stuff up. This is reptilians on the planet 4,000 to 6,000 years ago. So this is what we're talking about during the Great Flood period. So I find that pretty interesting. So what else was happening 4,000 to 6,000 years ago? Well, we had the Black Sea flood. A massive flood occurred in the Black Sea region around 5,600 years ago. And the Indus Valley civilization, they experienced a flood 4,300 BC, all the way through 1300 BCE. They had extensive, significant flooding events. Then, of course, we have in the Epic of Gilgamesh and the other Mesopotamian documents, they describe this devastating worldwide flood that happened, around 3,000 years before our current era. So it's really interesting that we had climate shifts around this time. We had sea levels rising. And so, we have this transformational period right here. This great flood, it's symbolic of this cylindric nature cycles that go on in time and transformation. So we had polarity on the North Pole, and the South Pole was holding the Christ consciousness. So I find that quite telling. So the question is that when we have negative polarity on the North Pole, is this what's causing the pole shift? So are they causing the pole shifts? This is a question. And I think that they might be. So we're going to dig into a few more of these other ones. So another time that we had this axis, lining up with a crux on the South Pole, was 12,800 years ago. Okay, so the difference is during that time is that we had again the same lineup that we had exactly 3.5 billion years ago on the North and the South Pole. We had Vega on the North Pole, which is your Lyrans again, your Alpha Lyrae group, and then on the South Celestial Pole we had Acrux. So the question is what happened 12,800 years ago? What was going on the planet 12,800 years ago? Well, guess what? We had a magnetic reversal then. So the question is that why did we have a magnetic reversal 12,800 years ago if we had two divine mother energies that were holding the grid? So this is interesting. So this is something that we need to go back and look at. So there are some couple things that were going on during this time, and the one thing was the Younger Dryas event. the Younger Dryas event. So, you know, we had a lot of things that were going on. The Upper Paleolithic period saw significant advancements into brain development. So when the Christ consciousness and the Lyran group, they come in on the North and the South Pole, are we getting massive upgrades in our consciousness? Let's think about it. Maybe so. Maybe so. Okay, so the emergence of complex societies and symbolic expression during this period laid the foundation for the development of modern human cultures. I think it's pretty interesting. And then the humans demonstrated remarkable adaptability in the face of climate change and environmental pressures. So it contributed to their success and their expansion. So we're having order coming out of chaos. So this is interesting. So the divine mother energies that were on the North and the South Pole, they were opting for harvest, I'm guessing. So, you know, we're going to have to go back and look at this some more, because, you know, there are a lot of things that happen. And, you know, I was saying that before we had this type of lineup somewhere in between 50 and 70,000 years ago. And we're talking about the Luciferian rebellion period. So we had these celestial alignments. At that time, the Southern Cross may have been aligned with the North Celestial Pole somewhere between 70,000 and 50,000 years ago. So I think that's interesting. That's very interesting. So the World Mother was here during Atlantis. And so the question is what was the South Pole? Let's see, what was the South Pole alignment? 70,000 years ago. So on the South Pole alignment, 70,000 years ago, we have Acrux on the North Pole, and then on the South Pole, we had we had Acrux on the South Pole. I'm sorry, we had Sigma Octantis was on the South Pole 70,000 years ago, but Acrux was close to the South Pole 70,000 years ago. So that's really interesting. You know, we have a lot of periods, replications during Roman time of these 8-sided buildings. The eight that's being put into the architecture and different things, these octagonal shapes. Now you have to remember that the number 8 is really special because it is basically the infinity symbol. So maybe Sigma Octantis was trying to bring back some kind of balance with the 8. And so maybe this is what Sigma Octantis means. So it's a faint star in the octons. So that's really interesting. So yeah, when we had the pole shift, when we had the Atlantean civilization, we had the solar cross that was really close to the South Pole. So we were having Christ influence that was coming in through the South Pole during this Atlantean epoch. And this Octanus constellation, it all has to do with the number 8. And 8 is all about manifestation. So let's see what it says about, it really doesn't say that there's anything that stands out about this constellation, just that it's octans. So, I mean, I wonder if this is where archons might come from. I don't know. Well, I mean, it's just 8. It just has to do with the number 8. So, you know, that's really interesting that these celestial cycles that we've got going on, and during these times and these epochs, we have a lining up of this Christ consciousness on the South Pole, almost like a balancer. And then on the North Pole, we got Vega. I'm telling you, there is a lot to go down and explore on this stuff. the fact that we've had these Lyrans here during these really important epochs on the planet is telling. It's telling. It is about harvesting. It's about harvesting. It's about harvesting souls to the planet. And I'm starting to wonder if maybe, like when we agree that we're going to come here, like we agree that we're going to be like a battery. We agree that we're going to let them siphon us and that use us, that we're going to be an avatar. We just don't remember it. We don't know what solar system that we came from when we come here because we're white. You know, not everybody remembers. Our DNA patterns have been scrambled up. But everything is about these cycles on the planet. It's all about these celestial lineups. They all have archetypes and they all have morphogenetic fields that are shaped like different animal forms, what we call animals. That's just their form. It very much influenced our first biological forms on this planet, and they marked them in the architecture all over. They aren't statues. They're depictions. They're depictions of what these beings looked like at that time. It's just that we've been brainwashed to think that they're statues. All of these things that are all over, like these old pharaohs and stuff in these ancient times, these guys were huge because they were coming from other dimensions. And like Theodorus explained to me, that when you're outside of this field, that you're just as big as your energy. That's why Theodorus looks like a giant. He's the size of his light body, and he's huge. He's huge. Like when he manifests to come into this three-dimensional spectrum in times that he's intervened, when I've had serious crises and I've seen him, his hand is this big. It's bigger than me laid side by side. I mean, he has like his hand is like 2.5 foot wide. They're enormous. They're enormous beings. They're enormous beings. So these were their forms. These were their forms. When they were here, they had animal forms. There's nothing wrong with it. In our old names, in our old family lines, they're all hidden in our names. Some of us have names that sound like birds. Like, have you ever heard somebody that's last name was Bird, B-Y-R-D? Okay, they're bird beings. They come from the birds. Hello? It's just that simple. And then when you start learning all this stuff, and then you start seeing all this stuff, when you look at people, you can see what tribes they're from. You can instantly pick up on it. I can. And most of the people I see are Lyrans. They're from Lyra. They're Lyran people. Most of the people here are from Venus. Seriously. And my husband's Italian. And so he's Venus. And he's Libra. Which is so funny because Libra is in my chart. I have different aspects of myself that are very conflicted. You know, I'm a Scorpio, Aquarius, and, you know, I have a lot of Libra influence all throughout my chart. Libra everywhere. But I also have Mars influence, right? Mars is this polarity that, you know, I'm having emerge in my timelines and my family lines. Because my family is very diverse. And, you know, it's no mistake that all of these people are put together. I mean, my mom and dad, they met each other on a blind date and they were married within 5 weeks. And they have been married over 50 years. There's a reason that these people are brought together. They're brought together because they have to merge bloodlines, because souls have to come in to do the work. This has been a long plan. It takes 26,000 years to plan these cycles out, to get these people in place, hundreds of thousands of years of work of steering the humanity on this planet, these light beings, that these placeholders that come in, steering this work, steering these genetics. It's all been kind of guided along for this moment. So it's super interesting that we can find out where these people were during all these times on the planet, during these different cataclysms. They were here. They were here. They were here during the Great Flood. They were here during the Great Flood. They were the ones that helped after the Great Flood. This is Archangel Michael's collective. Archangel Michael's collective. They all started out, you know, in polarity, male and female, just, you know, just separating to have this experiment. And, you know, it's interesting that they're so lovingly, you know, just want to guide us. But, you know, you also have to look at all of these different beings that have an agenda, you know. We just have to be here to take care of the planet. That's our job. Our job is to take care of the planet because she is a living, breathing being. And the importance of this is at this point in time, it's dire. It's dire. We have to move quickly. We have to move quickly because there's a shift coming. And then we have to be here to pick up the pieces. And we're going to be. And we're going to be. We've done this before. And all this stuff, this memory will all come back. It's just like muscle memory, energy memory, and collective consciousness awakening. And we're doing it. We're doing it a little bit at a time. So with that, I mean, I find this really interesting that we're just going to go back and document all these times. And it can be done. It can be done. We can see exactly when these people come in. And, you know, knowing where these solar systems are and knowing the types of beings that come from their morphinogenic fields, we can easily know where all of these cryptids come from, all of these different types of hybridized beings that we've seen over, you know, eons that are being talked about in our myths and legends, you know. These are stories. These are things that are passed along. They just call them myths now because they don't want us to believe that that is a reality. And there is a sense of absurdity to it. And that's the thing that is such a stigma, is that when you tell these stories, they seem so absurd that it's unbelievable. And I think it's meant to be that way. It's meant to sound absurd because we're in a matrix. We're in a matrix. So with that, I'm going to wrap up this video, 17 minutes. So when you come find me, I'll be here. We're living the past, present, and the future all at the same time. So we're going to go down this whole rabbit hole. We're going to find out where we were, what was going on, who were here, what the influences were on this planet. Because they've been in and out of this planet for a long, long time. And every 26,000 years, these planets all line up with us. And all of their influences just come flooding right down into the planet. And so if you're a hybridized being, which I'm sure you are, we all are, we're hybridized with everything under the sun. We've got all these different kinds of genetics. And so you're getting different codes and downloads from all of these collective groups that are part of your genetics, because we are programs. We are a computer. So, you know, these are all compatible systems with our biology. But we do have malware, so we've got to work it out. And you know what? We're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. And we're going to go through. We're going to be like Quetzalcoatl that's going to go and we're going to help these people. You know, we're going to help all of our communities. Except this time, we're not going to do it that way. This time, we're already going to be prepared. And we're going to just make an easy transition. Because we know. We're waking up. They're giving us the downloads. That you've done this many times before. So with that, when you come and find me, I'll be here. We live in past, present, and the future, all at the same time. So thanks for watching Sacred Enzyme, and I hope to catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.